Wait a second, have I been doing this wrong all this time? Let's try that again. A lot of people on YouTube make a big deal about this kind of thing. Personally, I will say I don't think it's that big of a deal if we're playing a note slightly different than it is on the original recording of whatever guitar solo you're learning. If we look at a lot of their live footage, in fact, we will find they don't play it the same way every time anyway. But I will say this one note has always bugged me, partly because it's played over and over again in the solo, and partly because I think historically it would have been considered really clever. But the thing that bothers me even more is not the wrong note every now and then, if it's in key, but the right way to learn a solo, because it's not just about memorizing where to put your fingers. Put your finger here, 6th fret, 8th fret, or whatever. We want to be able to understand the solo. How did they come up with these notes? And then when we can do that, we can learn so many solos so much easier. We can improve our own playing and our own improvisation and become not just guitar players, but musicians. As musicians, the way we would really think of a solo is more like this. It's a bit like that old saying. How does it go? You can give a person fish, or you can teach them how to fish. It's something like that. When you really understand the guitar and music and the fretboard specifically, learning all these things is easy. Playing all these things is easy. Mixing minor pentatonic and major pentatonic, or throwing a minor 7 in with major pentatonic, or enclosing the major third from the minor pentatonic, and all these kinds of things that Chuck Berry did, and many of the others did too. It's interesting because we might not have thought of Chuck Berry's solos as being that technically, or let's say harmonically complex, but in fact when you analyze it, you go, wow, there's a lot going on there, really. Even if we just take the first 3 notes of this solo, we want to know instantly, where do those notes come from? The song's in B flat, and yes, B flat is a real key, all you guitarists out there. And we can visualize, say, a B flat major chord. Now, he doesn't play that chord, but we can see where the lick comes from. It comes from B flat major pentatonic, starting right there on the major third, and walking up B flat major pentatonic extension shape. It's right there. And those are not triplets, by the way. Those are just 8th notes in groups of 3, remember? And so back to that wrong note. You know, when I was a kid, I learned how to play Johnny B Goode because, well, of course, it was in Back to the Future, so I had to. So my guitar teacher taught me how to play it, and eventually I got this book from a long, long time ago. And one day, I reopened this book and I discovered something interesting. I went, wait a second, that's not the note that I've been playing all these years. I've been playing the note from minor pentatonic, and yet he's been playing over and over in the recording the blue note. It's actually like this. But if you look at most of the tabs online that people have written for us, and I mean, hey, thanks for spending the time to write them out for us. Again, we all make mistakes, but this one is so interesting because if we bend the note that most people say it is, which would be at the 8th fret of the G string, that would be thinking what? B flat minor pentatonic easy shape, right? And that's probably why we're all thinking that, because that's that's our go-to way. So we're imagining that easy shape, and we're just imagining that bend, which is a bend we play all the time in rock and roll. So most people are going like this, but it's actually Now, I did say that it doesn't bother me that much when one note is wrong here or there, but this one does bother me because I think about the history of the electric guitar and what the guitar is able to do that other instruments are not able to do. If we think about Chuck Berry getting a lot of his ideas from piano players of the day, they're not able to bend a note, right? So you might say, okay, well, whatever, yes, we can bend notes. But it is far more, let's say, clever or novel if Chuck Berry is bending the blue note a half step. Because if we bend that blue note a half step, what are we raising it to? We're taking an E note and we're raising it a half step up to an F. And guess what the other note is that he's playing there with his first finger? That's an F note. So by bending the blue note a half step up, the E note becomes an F note, and then he hits the F note on the other string. And it's almost like, I want to say, sort of like an optical illusion. It's an audio trick that we hear one note raised to the sound of another, and then we hear the other one played on a different string. It's actually a very clever thing. And maybe to us, all these years later, because we're sitting here in 2024, it doesn't seem that novel, but you can imagine at the early days of the electric guitar and how clever this would be, because you cannot do that on almost any other instrument. If you listen to the track, you can hear that each one of those bends when he's doing his duck walk dance, and I'm not going to do that dance here in this video, but each one of those bends starts on the pitch of the blue note. It is funkier, it's bluesier, and it has that interesting effect where we hear the note go up and it becomes the pitch of the other one. Spring break is here, and so we are going to take a break, and there won't be a YouTube video next week, but I can give you a little homework. And I think that this is something that we well worth doing. Think of any solo or any song that you've played in the past. Maybe you've memorized how it goes. Maybe you've memorized where your fingers go. And maybe you've gone as far as saying, oh, well, I can see that that's A minor pentatonic or whatever it is. Go back to that solo and see if there's anything funny about it. Is there anything fishy about it? Is there a note that's not in the scale that you thought it was? Did you even think about the key when you learned that song, or did you just memorize that it goes 8, 9, 6, 9, whatever? Play that solo again. Could be one that you know quite well, and look at it in detail and analyze it like we do on our Patreon all the time, where we take a solo and we say, well, this is major pentatonic, this is minor pentatonic, this is coming from the chord, this is targeting the third of the chord. And when we do that, we get to be much better guitar players, and we get to be real musicians, and we can learn songs much faster. These are the skills that we should aim to develop on guitar, along with all the physical development. That will really take you far. And if you happen to find that you've been playing one note different than the original, who really cares? It doesn't matter that much. It's not about being so precise, right? We're not building bridges here, we're making music. And if you need some extra lessons while we're on break here, we've got tons on Patreon. In fact, I can't believe over the last year how many videos we've placed on Patreon with tabs and practice tips and jam tracks. It's kind of amazing. I'm feeling really great about the community that we're building there. And you can try it out for 7 days free, so you've got nothing to lose. I hope to see you over there. My name is Blue Morris, and I teach guitar lessons here in Vancouver and on Patreon. And I'll see you very soon.